How are you?
You've seen me all day. Don't
That's
act
true.
like this is the first time you've seen me.
I like to think every moment is the first time I'm seeing JP because I always feel excited.
Just like the quality of this video, the topic is about sinking. Okay, so what's this about?
So we're talking about sinking. And in the specific context, we're not talking about anything ethereal or philosophical. We are just addressing the idea that when you're floating in a float tank, some people want to literally know why you won't sink or drown.
This is one of those quick videos where I just shout out the answer is physics.
Yeah. just put a light description all the way through.
Light description of physics?
Yeah, just a light description. But why you don't have to worry about sinking. And no, not everybody has to have a luscious beard that helps you float above water. And sometimes if the wind picks up enough, you can actually float through the sky.
Right.
Even people without beards can float effortlessly in a float tank. Why do people have this concern? Is it makes sense. You're laying in salt water, or you're laying in a tub of water, and we're telling you just like, don't even worry about putting something underneath your head or your neck because your head's gonna float up fine. But to give context, when you're laying in the water, you could fall asleep, you could have no muscle action happening at all, and water is like, it's just gonna coast around here. Your head's gonna bob, you can relax, you have nothing going on. Why won't you drown? Well, it all has to do with physics. It all has to do with, we have such a high density amount of salt.
500 kilograms to be
500 kilograms to be kind of similarly in the ballpark.
It's like 499.7.
Yeah, something
I think.
wild. And we're also not mathematicians except JP when he's talking about salt in kilograms. The reason that you don't sink is when you're laying in a lusciously filled float tank filled with tons of Epsom salt, is the density of salt in the water is much greater than the density of salt and minerals in our own body. And so very similar to oil and water where you have different density solutions, we happen to just sink or float to the very top of it. Similar to why a boat floats or why some of us actually float on the surface of the water while we're swimming. It's a nice combination, but it's more so on the side of just the concentration of water minerals in ourselves compared to the high density liquid that we're floating and relaxing in.
Wouldn't it just be like the water's really dense so we float on top of it?
That's it, man. Like
versus like the minerals in water, because I don't know the density.
DYOR.
Bone density is high, so why don't our bones sink? I think it's just because our bodies are less dense than the water in the float tank.
Yes.
Therefore, we float on top of the water in the float tank, and we don't sink.
Yes.
It's actually, even if you push holes through your body like a piece of Swiss cheese, you would probably still float, but you wouldn't be alive after.
But you'd float,
and that's fact.
This is the important topic of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So the simple answer is when we add so much salt into the water becomes more dense than our bodies, so our bodies float on the top, and then we don't sink.
Now that is a 17-minute video.
Physics.
All right, well, now that that's answered, what else do you have to say? Yeah, if you want to watch more of Matt talk about his beard and me make fun of him and try and explain things about things we kind of know about, then feel free to watch other videos from this series called
And subscribe.
What the FAQ. You can subscribe if you really want to put up with more of this nonsense. And other than that, thank you for still being here, I guess, if you got this far. All right, so
Did you see what he said there?
We're gonna end this one.
Still being here, you have to be still in a float tank.
Okay, see ya.
That was his go-to.
This is over now.
That was completely intentional.
I apologize to everyone who watched this.